Hi, I'm Dan and welcome to your Airbrush Garage. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. Today I'm going to be doing an airbrush on a beginner skull. Now it is the longest video that I have out on my channel to date. It's about an hour and 15 minutes, where most of my videos I try to keep between 10 and 20 minutes. But those videos are sped up a lot with me narrating over top. I really felt that this was going to be a video that I'd like to put out where I'm not narrating over the top. This way you can see everything being done in real time. I do want to make one note. I was using a new microphone this time with noise canceling on it, and it was really only picking up my voice. So you might hear the airbrush go on and then go silent, but you'll be able to see everything the airbrush is doing. The other thing to keep in mind is you don't have to view it all in its entirety, all in one sitting. YouTube does this really cool thing now where you left off and you come back in at a later time and date, and it should pick up right where you left off. So I thought it was really important, again, that I didn't speed it up and that you were able to see all of the elements in real time or techniques in real time. So with that, hope you like this type of content. If you do, consider subscribing. Hit that bell so you get future notifications. A couple comments, good or bad, really helps out the YouTube algorithm, helps us grow. We're over 15,000 now. That's all because of you guys, and I really appreciate it. A thumbs up would be really great too. And don't forget to check out all those Amazon affiliate links down below for the products I use in this video and all my other videos. And with that, let's get started. All right, before we get started today, just a little bit about the products I'm using in the setup. Today I'm going to be painting on Door Bright White. It's 0.010 inches. So it's fairly thick, glossy type of paper. Get this at my local Hobby Lobby or Michael's. You can also get it online. It is a graphics product. I suggest getting this for practice because you can use this for your eraser techniques and stuff. Again, it's economical for practice. It's perfect for beginners. I'll pop a link down below. I'll also pop some links down below for things like TerraSlate paper. That's another type of paper I use. And the Drew Blair paper as well. I really like that too. Both of those papers are a lot pricier, but if you're going to be, at that level of airbrushing where you want it on that type of paper, and it does make it easier to do some of the eraser and scratch techniques as well on that better paper. But as far as practicing goes, this is a good economical solution. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a skull, and I want to try to keep this basic and simple. And this is a skull that I just got off the internet. I like this skull as a beginner skull because there's really no texture to it. It's just, we're going to be cutting out a stencil out of the paper or making a paper stencil and then coming in basically with some gray and then some black just to shade this in and give ourselves a quick and easy skull. It looks good. It's fairly easy. You can really get into, realistic skulls and textures and stuff like that. And I do actually have a texture video on a skull, a short one. You can go check that out on the channel if you get a chance, if you so want to. But I really do want to keep this, for the beginner and keep it basic. So as you can see here, like I said, we're just going to be doing and rendering this with some shading. So with that, let's get right into it. All right, so what I did here, as you can see, I cut out the skull, and this is the negative part of the stencil or template, okay? I'm not really going to be going over what the negative and the positive is. If you want to check out what the negative and positive and the differences are of a stencil, I'll pop a link up above here. I have a really cool video on that explains that. But I do want to briefly say that the negative part of the stencil is going to give you the positive image, right? So you got the cutout of the skull here, and as you can see, I cut out the darkest parts of the skull on the positive. So some of these parts I left intact because I'm just going to peel them back, and we're going to spray this in lightly so you just get the image. Okay, we could always come back and place this back on, sharpen things up, darken things up if we have to, but you really don't want to go too dark too fast, because if you go too dark, you really just can't come back from it. So you really want to build up to a tone to a point where, enough is enough. So with that, what we're going to do is I'm going to put this up here. And the other thing is part of my setup that I should say is that I have a metal backer board here, and I use some pretty strong magnets. They're called push pin magnets. Now, I know how some people out there already that watch my videos say, hey, Dan, you don't really need those strong magnets. Well, I like the strong magnets, and here's why. I use a lot of I really like the hardboard with the gesso on it, the gessoed hardboard. That's about approximately almost an 1/8 inch thick. I can still magnet something up to my hardboard where it will literally go right through the hardboard and allow me to still, get the magnet to hold it onto this backer board. So that's why I like the stronger magnets. But by all means, if you want to get some lighter magnets, that's fine. It works really well for doing stuff like this. But if you're going to be doing thicker substrates like I do, these heavier magnets, I feel, really come in handy. I went to magnets about 5 years ago. Before that, I used to use, masking tape, different other techniques to hold my templates in place. But I really do like these magnets. The other thing I'm going to be using to hold down anything that I can't get in with the magnet is just a regular mixing stick. I get these mixing sticks, again, you can get them online, you can get them at your local art stores, again, your Hobby Lobbies, your Michaels, whatever art store it may be. They're just mixing sticks. They're great for holding down spots where you can't get your magnet into. The other thing is I'm going to be using an Iwata airbrush today. I'm going to be using my Eclipse. I'm going to be using my Micron as well. I'm going to be spraying at 27 PSI. That is my preferred air pressure. Basically, I've been spraying at that pressure for years. I really don't touch it. I know that, some out there will lower their air pressure or up their air pressure depending on what they're doing. All the type of work I do and my finger and trigger control is just used to the 27 PSI. And for 99% of whatever I do, I can deal with that air pressure. So that's where I like to spray. So I'm just going to make sure this is secured down, because anytime you're using a paper template, you will find that if you're not at a perfect 90 degree to your substrate, or if you're coming in at this angle, it's going to blow up underneath, and you'll just have a little bit more cleanup to do later on. And the least amount of cleanup that you have to do, the better off you are. So you can't get too many magnets here, in my opinion. All right, so what I have mixed up here in my cup is I have about 8 drops of white and 1 drop of black. And I'm using Createx illustration colors here. The other tip I have for you before you get started is always do a little test spray off your substrate here, because I just went and test sprayed that. I didn't have my needle pushed in all the way from the last time I was messing around with my needle, and it just came shooting right out of the gun. So you always want to give it a test spray to make sure everything is in perfect or good operating order. The other thing is I found I added another drop of black to it just to gray it up a little bit more, and we'll see where we're at. We may have to add a little bit more black. I'm just going to lightly go around here. Just give myself an outline, because if I was just to start with the positive, I would have to go around here, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what that's going to do is shoot a line outside of the skull and on this part of the substrate. If you're going to be putting a background on it, that's all well and good. But if you're looking to do something like this, where it's pretty clean around the outside, you're going to want to start with the positive first and just mist that in just ever so slightly or lightly. Now, the other thing I want to say is that you have to be very careful when you use the stencils. You really can't tell, especially when you're starting out, how dark you're putting things on. You're thinking, oh, it's not dark enough, I need to put more on. Then you take the stencil off and you're like, whoa, that's too dark. So again, you could always come back in here and line this or reline it back up if you need to go darker. But let's go light to start with. So now I'm going to take positive part and I'm going to fit that right into where I cut it out. Now I'm going to put my magnets on both. And I'm telling you right now, I could even see, and I'll erase it off, but my paper is not covering all of the glossy paper behind it, and I was spraying right here, and I got some up on here. Now, the other thing you're looking at is you see a lot of spray right here outside the skull and letting it bounce, as they call the bounce technique. Learned that one online myself a few years back, that it bounces, or the overspray bounces from this part onto your substrate. That's what you're looking to do there. You don't want to just take it and spray 100% onto your substrate. All right, so the other thing that I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, if not, I'll mention it again. See, some of these pieces I didn't take totally off. That's because I just want to peel them back and hopefully get maybe a softer edge to them. So as you can see, I'm just going to peel. I didn't, totally cut everything out. You got to remember, anything that you're going to go against here now is going to be a sharp line and not give you a real soft line. It's going to give you a harder edge. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your reference and you're going to want to tape it someplace that where you can see it. I usually put it right above what I'm working on, because you're going to want to follow your reference as close as possible. Now, the cool part about this is it doesn't have to be exact. Okay, so what I did was, taking a step back, is I took a nice sharp X-Acto blade and I cut this out. As I was saying, cut some parts out totally, some parts out that I left on that I can just pull back. But I cut out all of the main features. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shoot them in. Today I'm going to be using the 2 airbrushes, like I said, the Eclipse, or I think it's the HPC that I got hooked up. Actually, it's the HPC Plus that I got hooked up. And I have black in that, and I have the gray in the other brush. So I'm going to use the black for the darkest darks here. Just in like the eyes, the nose, down here in the jaw, maybe right here. And I can come back in later, but I'm going to start off with a grayish, just because I don't want to go too dark right away. All right, so now once I get everything pinned up or stuck where I want it, I'm going to take my mixing stick, because again, there's going to be spots where I'm going to need to hold down where I can't get with the magnet. All right, so before you put any paint to your substrate, what you want to do is you want to take a good look at that reference. So I just got straight illustration black here in the gun, so it's going to be my darkest of my darks. But what you want to watch for is, looking at the reference, is that right here in the center of the nose, it kind of fades away, right, to a much lighter shade, okay, or value. So I'm going to come in here hard around this edge, but definitely not in on this edge, because I want that to fade to white. Same thing here in the eyes. It's darker over here and less dark over here and here. So I don't want to come in here and just fill that all in with black. And this value down here is pretty dark and black, and so is this one. But when it comes to the eyes and the nose, you want to be careful, because otherwise you can't go back. Once you put this black in, you can't come back in and shoot white. If you do, you're going to get nothing but a blue shift. I don't really want to explain what the blue shift here is in this video, but what you'll get is not a color that's white. You'll get a color that looks more of a grayish blue. You want to pay attention to the reference photo, kind of come up with a plan before you start shooting paint. Here's a little area right here where there's no way I can get in on a magnet to hold that down, so I'm going to use my stick here. The other thing too is, yes, I'm at a 90 degree as much as possible, but I can see this blowing up here a little bit. So if you are painting on your template here and not on here where it's blowing underneath, the paint's going to bounce from here onto here, and it's going to bounce this way, therefore not allowing it to go up underneath. The other thing I can do is I can hold it down with my stick as well. I just want to be sure. When I come down into that corner, I'm going to come up. Now I'm going to come back and darken that a little bit later, but I'm going to leave it it's just like that for now, for the most part. Just a little bit more in there. But for now, I'm going to leave it just like that. Like I said, we could always add more, and I'm leaving it like that on purpose to show you that once you take it off, you got to take a look at it, and then you can come back and decide whether, you know, where you want to add or where you don't want to add. So now I'm going to go back and again take another look at what I want to do here. And go very lightly right here. Harder line around here. A little C shape right here. Now, I can see this blowing up here a little bit. I probably got a little bit overspray underneath that even, and that's okay. But like I said, you got to remember, overspray will get everywhere that you don't have covered up. Just doing the nose down here, we'll go a little hard right along this edge here. That's going to be really hard to hold that line, but we'll see what we can do. The harder edge coming up this way. What I probably should have did was left that a little thicker so I could hold it. Hold that up top there. My arm doesn't get in the way so you can see, but I'm going to try to hold that up top here. Stick. Kind of got me a little bit of a white line. The other thing with something like that, I can come back in with an eraser. And again, I didn't want to really get into eraser techniques, but if you do need to do some minor correction, I am going to show you how to correct some things with an eraser. Not necessarily text or anything, but how to make some corrections if need be. Okay. Let's see, we're doing over here to this area next here. And I can peel that down. I need a hard edge right here along this area right here to create that upper jaw. Yet it's really light right here, so I'm going to hang out on most of the spray up here on my template again and let it bounce down right here. All right, now I'm going to go in here. Now, come back and we'll render the teeth a little bit differently later, but right now I'm just going to be going after getting an outline and kind of placing where the teeth are going to go. I didn't even do really any work down here on the bottom teeth to gauge them yet. We could always take this off, make some cuts again just to be, you know, get them in where they're at. But let's put these cuts in that I have here just to outline where the teeth are going to be. Again, you can use your mixing stick to hold things down here. All right, so now once we achieve that, let's see where we're at. I do see one other spot where I probably could have used a little bit of a cutout here. I think I'm going to take my razor right now, and I suggest you totally take this off and cut it. If you're not experienced with an X-Acto blade and not cutting through your substrate, and I have videos on how to cut stuff like this without cutting through your substrate. I don't ever recommend you do what I am doing right now unless you are comfortable with it and doing it for quite some time. So you can see right here what we got right down in. Just what I was telling you about the overspray. I didn't even spray anything underneath that little cut that I had in this stencil right here. And just from spraying the eye, the overspray got in there. And that's okay, that works for me. I like how light it is right now, and it kind of just gives me a little indication. We'll go back in there and we'll finish the rest of this later. But right now I got where some of my teeth are going, okay? But we're gonna need to do a little bit more work on that to get those into place. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go and I'm going to cut out a little bit more, and I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so let me explain what I did off camera here. Is I took the teeth and I cut from the top down, but I didn't cut through the bottom. Now, I did screw up a little bit when I cut the teeth. I wasn't thinking far enough ahead up at the top, and some of the teeth disconnected from the stencil, but as you can see down here, I got them back in. I'm holding them with magnets, and what I did was, again, I cut down on these so I can peel them back. See how I can peel each one back? Yeah, I can peel them back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel one back at each at a time and use the next one to it as the stencil for the next tooth. That makes sense. So I'm going to take my black here again, just up top, and I'm going to be very careful with it. Probably going to come down here more with the gray mix, but right up here, I'm going to come in with some black, and I'm going to shoot it lightly. I'm going to go too heavy on it, and I'm going to take each one, and I'm going to peel it back, like I said. And this is a difficult, tedious task. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there and girls that are very schooled at this, and they just come in here and they're going to do that freehand. Again, I'm trying to show you more of a beginner way so you can just practice rendering something like this. So I'm going to peel that one back. That's probably hard to see. It's going to be my darkest tooth. This is a weeding tool. I love this tool as well. Use it for a lot more than just weeding. As you can see, I'm using it to hold stuff. Back down, and the next one up. Again, you want to watch how dark you go here. Again, I'm going to show you a technique with an eraser. You can go back and brighten some stuff up if you need to, but you want to watch how dark. You don't think you're going really that dark until you pull off your paper or your stencil and you find out that you're too dark. Careful here. Dust it in lightly at first just to see where you're at. Now you see there's a big area up in here. Now this area in here, these areas are white. So I already messed up by filling that one in with black. Now, I don't see the harm in putting black in here if you need to, but it is separated by white, so technically should be careful about what's going on there. Again, I can come back in with an eraser and I can show you how to take that out. But for now, I have this little piece that I have left over. And again, you always want to save all the little pieces that you cut because you never know when or where you're going to use them. So I don't have that little area right here. I'm just going to try to stay away from these as much as possible. Now I decided to just stay with the black here for now and just spray very lightly. Again, I said I was going to probably go in here with the grayish mixture. Sometimes I hate to say it, I just get lazy and I just keep going with what I have. This is definitely the most tedious process that you'll do when you're doing the skull, as far as I'm concerned. Again, once you get to the point where you can just freehand this stuff, it becomes a lot easier, less time consuming. But in order to, learn the structure, some techniques, and get something, just give you that little boost of, hey, this looks really cool. I finally painted something. You got to start somewhere. There's times, even now though, I'll just, I'll go back to a stencil technique if I need to. I use lots of stencils. So you probably didn't see what I just did, but what I did was I cleaned off my brush. It was starting to get a little spotty, speckly, and what I did was I put a little bit of reducer here in this cup, got myself a paintbrush, dipped it in away from my substrate because this stuff can splash. Clean off the needle with my brush. Once I do that, I take a paper towel and I wipe the end of it, because if you have any reducer that's out here on the tip and you go and hit that air, it's going to blow it right on your substrate. You don't want to do that. But I was spraying for probably a good half an hour now without any tip dry, and it just started getting a little speckly, so I cleaned it off with my brush. And I just want to share that little technique with you, cleaning the tip. That's my preferred method. It off and see what we got. Just get a little bit more of the teeth in there. So what I have here is an aggressive eraser, and as you can see, some of the teeth again look too dark, right? I told you before, sometimes it doesn't look that dark, and then you take it off and now you see how dark it is. And again, I kind of overshot that on purpose just so you can see it. I'll show you how to fix it. See, that one has no spray in at all. Use some of that overspray to your advantage. What you can do is, if it's not coming off as well as you'd like, take this and you moisten it. Don't soak it. Moisten it in your mouth. Okay? Assuming you have all the paint off of here. I wipe that off on my jeans usually first, so my eraser is clean. I'm putting paint in my mouth. We just moisten it. Again, moisten, not wet. And that will take the paint right off. It's just that you have to watch. What I just did is I went like that and smeared it right up, because it totally reactivates the paint. But it does allow you to get the paint off a lot easier. You can play around with these teeth a little bit here. With your eraser, clean them up a little bit. Put a little texture in with them. This is basically the only part that I'm going to use this for. And I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, well, we're back, and if you played around with the teeth a little bit, get it to a point where you're happy. I use some different techniques in here. I use the shield to separate the teeth and get a little bit of darkness, and the technique for that is I put the shield there, Basically place it all the way down. There's two ways that I like to, get my quote soft line. Depends on soft line, hard line. Again, if you hold the shield above, maybe about a 1/4 inch, and you spray on the shield, you'll get that soft line. Or if you put it down on to the substrate, and again, you spray on the shield and let it bounce, you'll still get that pretty soft line, but you get a more crisp straight line. And that's the technique I use over here on the teeth. So now we're going to start to render a little bit. And I'm going to first come in with my gray mixture. And again, I can always come in here and add a little bit more black to this if I need to blacken it up, which I think I'm going to do. I'm going to try another drop of black. Black's a very strong, I don't want to say color because it's not a color. Every time I say color, I get corrected on that, but black is very strong. So you want to add a drop at a time. I was looking for a dark gray mix on this is what I'm looking for. And we're still pretty gray, so I'm going to go with another 2 drops of black, and I just want to blacken this up. Again, I just kind of want it a value or 2 underneath black. See it on the stick here. Pretty black. It's black there now, but when I do the spray out, it looks a lot more gray. You see the value of that? Probably in around what I'm looking for. So I want to add one more detail in here, and that's this right here. I need to add a little bit more of that in than what we have. Let's line that up again. Stuff is really easy to just come back in, and that's the other reason why I'm doing this stuff for you guys, where I can just go and show you where I can put it right back in. It's not that hard or that big of a deal to go reline something up. As long as you keep this. Oh, I mean, even if you didn't, you can go back and reline it up, but I like to just try to keep it there. Okay, so I'm just going to roll that back a little bit. And I can see I'm off here a little bit from where I was before, but that was the overspray hitting that way. Make sure I'm lined up here. It looks like I am. I'm just going to come in here and just get myself a guide to where that's at. This is kind of a sharper line down in here, so I'm going to hit that a little bit. Just take that off and see what we got. Okay. Too bad. Now what you see all of this going out from here on out, and right here is your highlight or where your light source is. So your light source obviously is coming in from here, okay, and it's hitting this spot here. It's illuminating this stuff in here, and everything else goes back into shadow. So that's important if you want this thing to take on a 3D image. Right now we're very 2D, and I'll show you that. If I lift this up, as you can see, that's a very 2D. It doesn't have a real 3D appearance. Shading and the shadowing is what's going to get you there. And the light source is key here. That's what makes things look like they take on, a round appearance. If you ever did any practice with, the sphere, I have videos on that as well. That is a great place to start with making something that looks like a ball, 2D into a 3D ball. So here we go here. The shadow down below also lends to the effect as well. But even if you didn't put that in, if you shadow this right, it'll take on a 3D appearance. So what we do is we're going to come here, we're going to take off from this right here, and we need just a little bit of more of a line coming down there as well, as I can see on there. Again, I'll just take a little stencil here or something. It doesn't have to be exact. Comes down, rolls down right in a little bit past here yet. I'll just pick something that I feel comfortable with here. That looks pretty good. I just want to tail it down a little bit. And again, I'm going to spray almost all the way onto the edge of that stencil. It brings that down and around. All right, so now I'm going to put a gradient shade from here on out. Very light, very subtle, keep it light. Here's where you're going to want to magnet this down so you don't get any overspray underneath. Again, dark here to light. Taking that line from here up and around right here. Keep that white spot right there. So I'm going to come up along the edge. Down around right here. It's a little darker down in here. Now the problem with making a hard edge like this, as you can see here, it looks more like a soft edge. Now once you get that hard edge, it's kind of hard to soften it up. I mean, you can. We just might have to go a little bit darker here. What I'm going to do is, in order to do that, I'm going to come in here and I am going to just follow up along here and try to get the overspray, almost like if I'm using a stencil. Try to soften that up a little bit. See a little bit right here. Now that gets dark between here and here. Again, I want to follow it. I want to watch that. Looking at my reference, looking for the darker spots, the lighter spots. I'm going to soften this up and around here. You've got a lighter spot here, darker spot here. So right and around this edge, we're going to go a little darker. Bring it out and around. And you can see the gray coming over to black a little bit. We can come back in there and touch that up with some black. Not a problem, because we're going to hit this with black and with the overspray. We're going to get kind of like a, you know, two different values of black. That's why I'm going with the gray first. So up in here again, we're looking at our light source. We're going to color this or shade this in a little darker over here. Down by the eye and the cheekbone right here. And you got to keep in mind, there's a little circle right there. So we're going to have to come up with something. Either favorite stencil at. Problem with having a favorite stencil is you lose it because you use it all the time and you lay it down. All right. So I'm going to take my stencil. I'm going to find something that I like. It's good right there. Okay. So, actually, that's not what I want. If I do that and I spray it, I'm going to be spraying the white part that I want. I need something that's going to be the outer part. Right, so to me, like that might fit pretty good right there. There we go. That's what I want to do because I want that. I want the black to be in here. I want to protect that part of it. In order to do that, I'm going to have to take off a bit of that and that. I'm going to line this up where I think I might want this. We'll put one in there, and then we're going to put one right down underneath here. That's more of a straighter line. Got maybe to match that up. Looks good. Probably somewhere right in around past that curve. Not too bad. All right. I'm just getting some harder lines in here that I see. Again, don't make them too hard. I mean, it's a little harder than I wanted, but we'll see. We can soften them up hopefully a little bit. Right here, there's one. You can just keep it soft by doing a freehand as well. You can keep it softer. We can give it a little try with some freehand. Little spot right in here is going to be pretty critical to making that look cool because you have eye sockets, right? You have an eye socket, and that has to appear to go down because the nose is up forward. So this has to look like this rolls back, right? And that right there, that little subtle detail, really is going to set it off. And I'm going to come back in. I'm going to hit things a little darker spots. All we're doing is shading. Very lightly. Pulling back very, very slightly on the trigger. Not all the way back at all. Air down, slightly back on the trigger. That's what you're looking for. And you just want to look at your reference and just try to paint what you see. This is just like a, again, goes back to practicing, painting a sphere or a ball. Getting that object to look 3D. And the other thing you want to do is every now and then you want to step back. It's really hard sometimes when you're right up on your painting to see what you're doing, or you think it looks one way, but when you step back it looks a whole different way, and then you can evaluate it and see what areas you need to attack. You can start in one area, come back to it later. I don't like to render everything all in one area. I like to start getting little pieces and little at a time, everything in. You see I have nothing down here on this right now. I have nothing in here. Just build it slowly as you go. If there's an area up here in the eye that I want to try to tackle right now. Again, you're using this as a reference, and it doesn't have to be exact. You can make it your own. I want to work a little bit of a highlight in there. Just come back in. I can work a little bit of a highlight and come back in and shade it if I need to. Not so sharp. Subtle highlight like that. Sometimes you're not even really getting a highlight out of it. Sometimes you're just knocking some of the paint off just subtly. See it coming off on the eraser a little bit. That's all you need. Starting to shape up a little bit. Put some down in here, some of this. Pull some dagger strokes down here. But real subtly between the teeth, the one thing I want to mention about skulls is where your teeth are, there's a highlight, because they're kind of crowned or rounded over, right? So your highlight in your gums, because your tooth goes up into your gums, creates a high point right here and then a low point in between. So just real subtly, I'm going to be putting some shadow in here in between the teeth, and that's going to give it a little bit of a rolled effect, and that's what you're looking for. Same thing down here. Okay, now they kind of faded off in here, but what you're looking for is you can kind of see those teeth taking on that, right now they're flat, and we're going to make them look like they're coming out a little bit at you. Put some of the darks in down here first. So looking at our reference, coming down, probably about this tooth right here. Here on back is where it's going to be. Having the dark highlights, and you want to make sure, again, looking at your reference, that you're keeping this. You don't want to fill it all in. You come back with the eraser if you need to, but you want this separation of the white between the bottom of the tooth, the white highlight, and then back into the dark. Most of these strokes right here are going to be little dagger strokes. We'll probably come in here, maybe we could brighten them up if we get a little off on our dagger strokes, and you can use your stencil techniques with that as well. But I'm just going to go in here. First, I'm just going to darken it up a little bit. I'm going to throw some dagger strokes in first. And again, that's going to be between the teeth. We want to create that separation between the teeth and that, so we want that white highlight in there. Attempting to do right here. So by hitting that edge, you're just trying to soften it up. And it does soften it up a little bit. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of black just when I touch up these black areas, and that's going to bleed over as well, hopefully soften it up a little bit more. It's starting to take shape here a little bit. I'm starting to like the way it's starting to look here. We're getting there. And keep an eye on that reference for your light spots. It's really easy to get the overspray and get in there and start getting too dark. Switch back over to my black here. Straight up. Clean that nozzle a little bit with the brush. Sit in a while. Wipe it off with your paper towel. Gonna darken up some of these areas. Now, if you're not comfortable going freehand, attacking these areas, again, what you can do is go back, put your stencil on. Covered up that you don't want to get overspray on. So that overspray through that last time. We don't want to do that. Again, if I wasn't demonstrating this for you, I would just go freehand, but no shame in using a stencil. A lot of people out there, well, if it's not freehand, it's not airbrushing. Really? As long as I achieve the result that I want to achieve, I don't care what you want to call it. There you go. Now I'm just going to come in there. I'm going to freehand some of this stuff in here because I don't want that sharp line anymore. I want to keep it soft. So it's okay if I get some overspray on the outside of where I'm going for. Matter of fact, I want some of it there. Kind of want to keep a cleaner, harder edge in here. And I can clean some of that up with my eraser if I need to. But if I want to keep that cleaner, harder edge, I get my little stencil here. Do you want the hard edge? Bring that edge around, softens that right up. Now you don't have that real hard edge that we had when we first started. I want to keep that hard edge here. Just kind of spray right up the middle of that. Let the overspray help us out. A little bit of a harder edge in there. Dark highlight right there. A little dark over here. Kind of just lightly running over some of the other stuff that I did earlier with the gray. And going in, this is just going to darken up. So I'm going for two different values here. And I just utilize the gray. Let's take the paper off and let's see what we have. See what we're looking like. Take a step back and take a look at it. See what we think. All right, there you have it. For you guys that hung in till the end, it's amazing what you can do with just a little paper template and some basic shading techniques for the most part. So I hope you got something from this video. If you did, you guys know the drill. Consider subscribing. Hit those links down below. It all really helps out. Hope to see you in the next video. We're growing. We're over 15,000. I really appreciate it. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.